So, I'm super interested to start to get into. So, we've talked about your experiences growing up and in the UK, but I know you're a man that's well travelled.
Okay.
So, I'm super interested to hear more about some of your experiences outside of the UK. And when we put this into context, like somewhere like the US, for example, where interracial marriage was only legal since 67. So, it's really, really recent times as such. So, tell us a bit more about your experiences outside of the UK.
Okay. Yes. So yeah, we're quite fortunate enough to travel quite regularly. We tend to go on about 2 to 3 holidays every year, and we've been all over the place. Some things do stand out. Significant things that have happened in particular countries. If I give you 3, where I remember, significant things happening, which was to do with the fact that I'm black and Lacey's white. The first was in Portugal, I believe, where Lacey and I were in a queue waiting to go and see a particular landmark. And a family were going past, and they were a family. There was a man, a woman, and a couple of kids. And the man was you could tell he was quite a jovial character, because prior to his engagement with us, he was obviously making jokes at people in the line or whatever.
Sure.
So he comes to us and he says something about, I believe it was my hair or something along those lines. And, it was quite a clear reference to me being black. There wasn't many black people in the queue. And my immediate thought was, I'm going to say something. And then Lacey at the time, I think she got even more worked up than I did.
Sure.
And was and then I calmed down. I said, you know what, just leave it, kind of thing. And I think I just looked at him straight in the eye, so he knew I wasn't mucking around.
Yeah.
But I didn't react further than that. So it was very difficult, because where we were in Portugal, there weren't many black people around doing quite a privileged thing, if I'm quite honest. Going to see a landmark or whatever.
Sure.
I think it was in Lisbon, and there weren't many black people around. So already I'm kind of on edge, because I know that people are going to be looking at me, assuming, or maybe asking questions about what I do, who I am I famous? Because that's the regular conversation that we have to deal with. Lacey quite well presented or whatever. And then people looking at me and assuming I'm some kind of sports star, or I don't know, I get that quite a lot. Do you play basketball? Or I'm thinking, you're not looking at my tummy. So it's a very confusing thing. So I'm kind of already used to it. But the fact that he quite openly, it wasn't just the stare, it wasn't just that look. He quite openly said something that referenced me being black, where it was just like unacceptable. Another occasion was when we were in Cyprus, and I think she was Russian. The lady was Russian, and she came up to me and she was saying something like Kalashnikov in her language, and I was skeptical. But then I thought to myself, let me not jump the gun here. Let me try and interact with her. So she could see, it doesn't matter if I'm speaking English, she's speaking Russian. She could tell that I wasn't aggressive in my nature. She could tell that I was quite welcoming, my hand gestures, my body language. But then she continued to kind of probe about, she was saying Kalashnikov, something else, but then she made a reference which made me realise that she was talking about the fact that I was black. And then we just walked off. We just left it. I thought there's no point in engaging any further, because I'd done my work.
Sure.
I'd done my work in saying, I'm not aggressive. I don't fit the stereotype that you've maybe got from TV or whatever you've been fed. So I've done my work, and then still you're going to make a reference to the fact that I'm black. From then on, I'm not going to engage anymore. I'm just going to continue walking. And then a third example, and this probably happens in quite a few different places that we go to. I think it was in Cinque Terre in Italy, whereby we were going to a restaurant, and I got there before Lacey, and so they didn't kind of make me welcome before she was there. And I like to think of myself quite well presented.
Sure.
So I don't think it's anything to do with that. But then Lacey came shortly after me, and then they realised that I was with her, then all of a sudden the service comes, you know, and it's quite clear that you saw me. You know, I caught your eye a few times. You didn't serve me any kind of attention.
Yeah.
And as soon as my wife comes along, white, English, long hair, well presented, then you know, give us the attention that we deserve. So there are just 3 different cases that we've had, and then I'm sure there's been plenty more within the UK, abroad, where people definitely look at us and you know, maybe they would have a particular judgment on what I am, who I am.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's because it's terrible, but I think sometimes they would look at maybe things like jewelry or certain items of clothing and think they're obviously kind of well-to-do, so something must be going right. So they're trying to almost understand. You can see all the questions going in their head, trying to understand what's happening here. You know, his partner looks, you know, attractive or well presented, but why is she with him? You can literally see them undressing you with their eyes. Plenty of experiences like that. Plenty.
And so, how does that differ from your experience when you travel with, for instance, your band members? You know, you do a lot of traveling for MSK Media.
Yeah.
But tell us, how is the experience similar for you when you're traveling with your band members? What's the sort of makeup of your band members?
Okay, so there are 6 of us in the band, and you know, if we don't have a DJ, just looking, you know, strictly at the band, there are 6 of us. One of them is of Iranian heritage. One of them has you know, a bit of Chinese in him. His mum, I believe, is half Chinese, but he looks white. So yeah, most of the band you would look at them and they look white. Me being the only black member. What I find is that, and this is probably the case in most social situations, what I find is that when, and again, I'm probably only speaking from my own experience being black, when it's diluted and there's more white people around, I think it's safer for whichever environment you go into. So, and they can often see there's a level of kind of, I don't know, positive engagement between me and my band members. We're always laughing and joking wherever we go, not kind of noticing what's going on around us. So I think I haven't experienced as much where the microscope isn't necessarily on us, because it's diluted the fact that there's, you know, the group is predominantly white, and so it's safe.
Sure.
But again, even with that, I think that we have had experiences where you know, racism has taken its toll, because I am the band leader. So any engagement with authorities or venues or anything like that, it's me that has to go and do it, right? So sometimes I feel to myself, do I encourage someone else in the band to go and maybe open and break the ice because they may be received in a certain way? Although I do have belief in my skills to go and do that, sometimes I just feel safer to just push that person and go and do that. And then once the ice has been broken, they've come and met us, they've seen that it's safe to speak to this guy who is essentially telling us what to do. Because it's a power play, right? It's like, he is the leader of these people that we have to accept in our vicinity and our environment. And so we have to kind of, you know, cater to his requirements. And that's a difficult thing for some people, particularly racist individuals, right? Where somebody who's black is telling me what to do, right? So there's that. And I think that I'm very careful in the way that I navigate myself in and around those situations, because I'm always wary of that. So I'm always trying to make sure that person feels safe. It goes back to, you know, what I was saying before. It's an ability. It's an ability that we have as black individuals, whereby we kind of know how to make people feel safe. Maybe not everyone, maybe not every black individual that has, hasn't had the same lived experience as I, but certainly I've learned to make people feel safe in my presence.
There's one thing that I wanted to plug into a bit, which you mentioned before, and I think it's really relatable for a lot of people, so I think it's important to try and get underneath the surface of it. And it's when you said you go away and it's like, are you a sportsman? Are you a And do you know what? Sometimes in your case, they ask you if you're a musician.
Very different. Well, actually,
I've had those experiences to the extent where people have asked me if I'm a basketball player, etc. Football player.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a basketball player. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But what do you think is underneath that? Like, why is that? Because black people can be anything that anyone else is, right?
Yeah,
Could be a lawyer, a doctor, businessman. What do you think is actually underneath that?
I think that it's that representation thing, right? So, when you're looking at UK media, the places where you see black individuals are in entertainment, are in sports. That's the place where you usually see a successful black person. Entertainment, sport, that's usually it. So I think that, the UK does have a responsibility to push black representation in every field possible. So you're looking at the TV now and you see Black Lives Matters and you see a lot more adverts and TV shows which are a lot more inclusive and that are pushing for diversity. And UK it's very new to a lot of people. Some people, bless them, they can't open up their eyes to see that this is what we're trying to do. Show representation, show black representation or ethnic minority representation on mainstream media, so that it's easier for people to receive and understand that black people aren't just sportsmen or musicians. And that's all it is. But people, if you've been living in the UK for a long time and you're used to seeing, white people on adverts or white people on TV shows or white people in successful positions, power positions, directors, leaders, managers, and you're used to seeing that is your norm. It takes a very, very wide eye to be like, actually, is that right?
Yeah.
Considering if we're considering the capital of England, 10% of England is black people, right? So how on earth does that make sense? Let's just look at this logically. Are they genetically inferior? No. There's no science that proves that, right? So if you're looking in London, why is it if 1 in 10 people are black, why isn't it you're not looking at directors in London and saying 1 in 10 of those are black? Why not? At least ask the question. That's the thing. So you maybe you disagree with it. Maybe you do believe that black people have certain things or characteristics about them that are inferior. Okay, fair. But at least ask the right questions. Challenge yourself to say, why is that the case? 1 in 10 are black in London, and why is that the case? 1 in 10 directors are not black. Just challenge yourself. That's all I ask.